Hello there.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. We're covering the season one finale of Skeleton Crew today, as the real good guys are back to cover this episode. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. With me, as always, the great Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing good. Excited to talk about the finale with you guys and curious to see what you think.
Yep. Also here with us today, the real true supervisor of At Attin, Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing fantastic. Did you guys know that one, two, three, hold on, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. This is the 10th show, and if some of them have been multiple seasons, but 10th show that we have covered on the podcast,
From start to
including
finish.
animated and
Yeah.
and live action. Some of them had two seasons. For example, Mando, we've covered more than one season. Actually, that's the only one, I guess.
Bad,
Or
bad.
Vengeance, I suppose,
Yeah.
and Tales, but whatever. Yeah, this is our 10th show.
Yeah. 10 shows in the books and, having a lot of fun along the way.
Or Tales actually counts as one show in what I just said. But either way, 10 shows.
Yep, 10 shows and a lot of fun here. People want to subscribe to the Sky Guys. Do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all your suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys for your podcast platforms and final episodes there. And just as a suffering friends, we're going away for a little bit now that the season's over after this episode. So if you want to stick around and see what we're doing in the off season and then to ramp up the annual, make sure you're subscribed.
Yeah, make sure you're subscribed. It's totally free. Helps us out. You get your content quicker too, as I always say. So definitely subscribe.
Yep. And Nick, you want to follow the social media? I'm going to do that.
You can follow at Sky Guys Podcast virtually everywhere now.
Yes.
That includes Facebook, YouTube. You can email us at skyguyspodcast@gmail.com. Or actually, that is um, at skyguyspod@gmail.com. But you can see at Sky Guys Podcast everywhere else. That's like I said, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, TikTok. Hopefully, for more than the next 5 days, we'll see.
Yeah, Blue Sky's coming too. That's being efforted.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with the TikTok stuff. But yeah, everywhere at Sky Guys Podcast. Email us at skyguyspod@gmail.com.
Yeah, I'll also mention here before we get to social media comment of the week. If you guys like what you're hearing here, feel free to leave your reviews and your star ratings across on your favorite podcatcher. Help more people find the podcast and get more engaged and more always exciting. Because you like having the audience chime in and talk to us, Nick.
We do. We get a lot of good comments on our TikTok, which is where we usually do our comments of the week. So I'm assuming that's where you're going to go right now.
That is where I'm going right now. This is a comment from the reel talking about Jod's as not being revealed last week. This is from C on TikTok. It says, "This is going to sound crazy compared to the fandom menace bug critique. They have to stop playing stuff out so far. The original six and Clone Wars are written on the fly, essentially. Let Lucas be much more flexible, but also stuff like there was a Leia flashback at 5 that you can be a Skywalker in 6. Lucas' great unreliable narrator retcon. So, Pete, what do you think about that?
I mean, are they talking about planning the story ahead too far and that
Pretty much.
they should just, yeah, I mean, I can understand both camps. But they also have to remember George Lucas is not writing these anymore. This is Disney. And don't get me wrong, there's Filoni and there's still the same people from the past, but I think George Lucas just had a different way about him, and he had the story in his head. And I think that as much as it may be on the fly, things were probably planned for him as well. But I don't know. I think we've discussed why content's coming out the way it is when it comes to Disney Star Wars. But I mean, it could be a good point. I won't say that it's not plausible.
Nick, any thoughts on this?
No, I mean, I get it, and I understand why he feels that way. I said the same thing about what we were doing over Rebel Moon. I said, like, stop pretending, like, or stop expecting multiple things and planning so far for the future to be in the now. But at the same time, I get it. They're doing it because they want to have an endless stream of content, so people will sign up for their monthly subscription service. If you do things on the fly, people aren't going to sign up for your monthly subscription service. So I agree, but I understand why they do it.
I think the comparison, what happened with this show with Acolyte is fascinating because like Acolyte clearly was designed, oh, like we want to do 5 seasons, and then they were spacing things out. They didn't do this pacing right. This one was like, okay, like if we're done with one, we're fine. And they told a good story over one. Now there are people saying, oh, we should get more of this.
Yeah, I completely agree. We'll that's a great topic for our season finale, or excuse me, series review show or season review show. because then the number one topic on that's going to be, is there going to be a season two, which we're all leaning towards there's not going to be. I think we're all leaning towards there should be. So that's a great topic for us to discuss.
We'll put a pin now until next week here. But Nick, before we do I believe we have some promotional material to do here.
Yeah, so this upcoming February, which is right around the corner, 3 weeks from this Friday, time of recording is January 15th. So that'll be February 7th, 3 weeks from this Friday, is Star Wars Podcast Day of 2025. They do this every year. I don't know when this started, I'll be honest.
It was 5 years ago. It says right here it's the fifth Star Wars
Where does
podcast.
it say that?
Right there, Star Wars podcast.
Oh, the V right here.
And Roman numeral 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't really see that. So this is the fifth one. Just a good way for these podcasts, Star Wars podcasts, to connect and to gain recognition and to recognize one another. And obviously, shout out to the person who puts this together, the whole thing. So thank you.
Yeah, and just people remember, Pete, like Star Wars Podcast Day is on February 7th because that was when the very first Star Wars podcast came out back in 1999. So giving them a shout out here. So we're gonna have a special episode coming on Star Wars Podcast Day on February 7th. So it'll be a little later that week, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
give me an episode. Go ahead, Pete.
yeah, no. I was just gonna say, definitely check them out. We'll have some content on there as well. So very excited.
All right. So Nick, now we can get to some Star Wars news. There was a lot of stuff that popped up this week.
There is the biggest thing is that Rory McCann, sorry, who is better known as playing the Hound in Game of Thrones, is going to be cast as Galen Skoll for season two of Ahsoka, replacing the late Ray Stevenson. So, obviously, want to know what you guys think about this. But first and foremost, if you didn't know, the two actors were great friends. So he's almost doing this as a way to pay tribute to his late friend.
Yeah, and Pete, interesting here because obviously I'm not as familiar with the Game of Thrones as you guys are, but like there were a lot of fan theories about who should play this role. I know we had Nick Offerman was floated, we had a bunch of other names floated here, but like I think like for the vibe they're going for, the fact that like he's great friends with Ray Stevenson, and like I think that will add some inspiration for him. I think it's a good choice by Lucasfilm.
I agree. I think that that connection is going to be powerful, and I think he's going to uphold the character with the utmost respect. Now, as the Hound, I think he played a phenomenal role. I think he's a great actor. So I'd like to see what he does in this role. I think it's a little bit different, right? For those who have watched Game of Thrones, it's a little bit different a character. Um, but I could see some sort of correlation. So I think it'll be good. And I think, like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of respect when it comes to playing this role.
All right, so what else we got, Nick?
Next is that Lucasfilm is talking to Bo Willimon, who wrote the Prison Break arc of Andor, and he is also helping James Mangold write his film about Dawn of the Jedi. They are talking to him about doing his own Star Wars project. I don't know when this will end. It's like it's three a week were announced. They're going to do 154 projects a year apparently. So this one's not happening. The next piece of news is that Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor are reportedly are appearing in season two of Ahsoka. It'll be during a Clone Wars flashback. We had previously saw a flashback where we saw a little bit of Rex, and it was pretty dusty. Honestly, there wasn't that much to see. I'll be honest with you, but hopefully we get to see a little bit more.
Yeah, I did think it would be fun. I think I saw this rumor going around the internet that was like it was a lot of like oh it's going to be Ariana Greenblatt to come back as young Ahsoka. You have Hayden back. You have Ewan McGregor back here, and like this is to see if this is actually true, Pete. If they do like something we've seen already, a different perspective of it, or some original like unseen storyline that like we didn't get in the actual show.
I mean, I would assume it's still in the Clone Wars era. I mean, if you have both of them, I think they would benefit from doing something that was unseen. I think having the flashback of the actual war was cool, but I think that having some extra, not context, but some extra story that we didn't see already is going to be a lot better than if we just reskin the animated show.
Yeah, I think makes sense. I mean, Nick, like I mean, when in the flashbacks in season one of Ahsoka, I mean, like we got vague references to one episode, and the other one was like, oh, here we're in the Battle of Mandalore, which is different because Hayden Anakin was not there for that. So I think maybe they'll do something vague or like, oh, like this is in an episode that we saw, but we didn't see this scene happen. Maybe something like that.
Maybe. We'll have to see. Who knows if this is all not true, but we'll see.
Yep.
I think Ewan McGregor is dying to get back into the Obi-Wan Kenobi boots, and this might be his way.
Yep.
And lastly, Disney reportedly has two animated Star Wars series in development now. So this is another project that's been announced with zero proof.
Yeah, I would not be shocked though, because I think the article we saw about this made a great point. That like basically since 2008, every year Disney has had at least one animated series on the air somewhere, whether it's Disney Plus or Cartoon Network or you name it here. And like there's nothing in tap for this year. So I'd not be shocked if like we get a celebration in April, Pete, and they say, oh, new animated show coming this fall on Disney Plus. I would not be shocked when that happens.
I wouldn't be shocked either. We're gonna get like Tales of the Gungans.
Now, I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever, but does this count like Young Jedi Adventures? Does that count?
No, they mean I think they mean like full scale, like
Well, yeah, why? Why? Like, says who? Like, if they say we have an animated show in production, why can't it be a children's show?
I think they view it separately. They view it more as like the Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance, like Bad Batch Quartet, sort of like in that mold.
You're saying we're going to get another one of those type of shows, and I don't disagree at all. I just think that it's very possible that we're getting another little kid show, something like that. Maybe another season of Visions, like something.
That's already confirmed. We know that another season of Vision is coming.
I know, but this could be the same thing. Because like
And
this article is not a source from like a Disney source.
yeah,
So they could say, "Oh, we have a show in development, and we know Visions is coming." Oh, turns out that show is Visions. We don't know that.
yeah, but like I know, considering again, like the desire to keep subscribers on here and how it's easier for them to produce an animated than to do a live action show, like would not be shocked if we have something coming.
Yeah, I mean, we probably have to do an episode on this in the future, but as of right now, there's not much on the horizon.
No, I think like we have an idea for like July, like once we get past Celebration, past
Oh,
that.
I don't mean that. I just mean like in general, all these shows that we've been covering, for the most part, they're all over. Ahsoka's getting another season. They're preparing for it to be canceled.
Yep.
Andor's getting another season. It's the last season. So what's the next show?
That's definitely worth
As of
discussing.
right now, we don't know. I'm sure Celebration will give
Like
us some
us.
more material. I would hope, and we'll see. But I always say like I'm so quick to throw these projects out the window and say they're not happening, they're not happening. But it is true.
Something's gotta happen.
Something's got to happen, or else you're right. Like they need to keep subscribers on Disney Plus. They need to give us some sort of content after 2026.
Yes. Yeah, after this, yeah, because there's this black hole. Well, that's a future discussion here. Is that it for the news right now?
That is it.
All right, so let's get to this episode here. The real good guys, the finale of season one of Skeleton Crew, and hopefully not the only season here. But Pete, I had a lot of fun with this episode. I thought they did a good job, sort of, not rushing the finale, giving it room to breathe, having some character moments, and we got, a satisfying ending to the story that leaves it open ended. If we want to do more, we can.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think they hit a home run here for the show. I think that you're right. I think they do leave it a little bit open-ended to allow for more, but they wrap up the story. So if we don't get a second season of Skeleton Crew, it works. And I think that's where a lot of the show should be moving on. And again, discussion for a different day. But yeah, no, it was definitely a great finale to the show, and yeah, I'm excited to kind of dive in here.
Yeah, Nick, sort of dive into the Stranger Things comparison again. I know it's been made with the show a few times. It does feel like a little bit like Stranger Things season one, where they wrap the big mystery, where the character will in Stranger Things season one, Will gets home, and here it's like, oh, the kids got home, they're safe, and like they leave you that little tease, like if we want to do more, we can. So I think that door was checked off nicely.
Absolutely. They can do more if they want to with these characters, and these characters did a really good job at, I said this before, not being hated.
Yeah.
They found children actors that were good. They were good, and right away there weren't people like trying to bash them. As similar, if you think back, I know it was animated, but Clone Wars movie season one and two, everyone hated Ahsoka. Rebels season one, maybe even a little bit of season two, everyone hated Ezra. those characters grew on you. You didn't have to do that with these characters. We loved them from the start.
Yep, it
That was great.
was great. And let's get into the stories episode here. And Pete, can I call the writers out for the biggest like lame cliffhanger twist here with the whole mirroring of Jai lighting his lights here? Be like, just kidding, guys. I'm the Jedi, and I brought the kids home, and they need to be grounded because they broke the rules, and so finally their quarters. So I thought like for what they teased, the cliffhanger was a kind of lame way to resolve it.
I mean, I don't think it was a resolution. I think that we get a lot more of that later in the episode, and that makes it a little bit more justified. If that was the last time he lit his lightsaber, I would say, okay, yeah, that was kind of weird. But I think the rest of the episode kind of plays out the way you would expect it. Um, so yeah, if that was the last time we saw the lightsaber, sure, I would agree with you. But I'm kind of leaning toward it was okay writing there.
Nick, this felt like classic to me. Like that was like if this was binging, that's the click next scene, and the click next is like, oh, okay, it's nothing. He's just bluffing.
Yeah, I think it also to show the parents like, don't mess with me.
Yeah,
Like, this is what I have, a lightsaber. I'm
I'm a
going to tell you guys what to do. I am the Jedi, the ambassador. Like, you're going to listen to me, and everyone's and I gave you your children back. Like, you're indebted to me. Like, listen to me now. And I think they have lots of reasons to listen to him, and they do. And he needed them to listen because the kids were not gone, separate ways to their own bedrooms, if you will. They could have spilled the beans, which eventually, of course, happened. But he was playing that safe because he was to get off that planet with as much money, and he meant it. Like he didn't want to hurt anybody, but we don't find that out, unless later on in the episode. But and John's a very confusing character, and I'd like to talk more about it later on.
We'll get to him a little later on. Like we do see also like he sends away and he insists that he, Fern, and Farrah are going to meet the supervisor. So like that's the idea here. Is like I would go meet the supervisor and talk about letting my ship come through. That's the whole situation here. We do get a fun scene, Pete, where like Wim is eating with his dad. He's sulking because he knows like my dad's here. I can tell him what's going on, but I can't because the security droid is watching. He'll tell Jod if I spilled the beans. So very good scene because like his dad's just happy to have him home, and like Wim is sort of like bursting at the seams to like go ahead and like tell him what's actually happening, and then he can't. He has to sort of like play off like, oh, I'm disappointed. I want to do the assessment test.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about this scene to me is that the adults in the show still believe Jod is of authority. And even Wim's dad was like, "You're in so much trouble. Like I have to like it's just like it's business as usual. The days are going on. I'm gonna go work tomorrow. He's gonna go to school tomorrow." So I found that the most interesting part of it. Um, and I think that plays a huge role in the development of the episode because it just goes from like 0 to 100 very, very quickly. So I think it was good.
And Nick, I think it's a good sort of like catch your breath scene, which would not have gotten as like a 42-minute finale. I think like good sort of opportunity sort of like reset a little bit before all the chaos starts happening right after this. So I think this is something I think you talked about last week. Having two episodes to finish the story helps a lot compared to trying to shove everything into one.
Yeah, it was like the calm before the storm. It was like a very intense emotional scene because we know what's going on with Jod, what he's planning to do, and those pirates are out there. We know they're going to get through. Like it's very obvious if you're watching the show. So it's like us as the audience know this is the calm before the storm. We know something is about to go down, and it does. Of course, they invade, and the whole episode plays out. But it's a very powerful scene because of that, because the audience knows something's going to go down.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
put this in episode two, episode three of the show, it's not really that powerful of a scene. Putting this at the end when you know something's about to go down and everything that's transpired already makes it very powerful.
Yeah, it is very powerful here. And speaking of important scenes here, Fern, Farrah, and Jod go meet the supervisor. They get to the top of the tower. You see the room's basically been abandoned for, I would say, probably like centuries as everything's covered in dust. The supervisor is not Takarnov, he thought. It's just a droid who's basically built in the wall. And I thought that was interesting. Like, I thought Pete's not happy with that reveal that this is just basically Wizard of Oz.
There's a part of me that's fine with it. There's a part of me that's like, oh wow, they've been following a droid this whole time about how to run their civilization. Like that part was still interesting to me. I just feel like there was such an opportunity to make something more. Um, you know, not to say it had to be a cameo or anything like that, but make it something more, right? Make it like it's the pirate. There's a face off between them while the kids are trying to say like there's I feel like there was a missed opportunity there because let's be honest, in the very next scene, which occurs maybe a minute later, not even the supervisor is non-existent.
Nick, how'd you feel about the supervisor reveal?
So I don't. We can go back and search the logs, but we had a guest on this pod. I want to say it was for episode 4,
Yeah, it was Nick D.
and I said the supervisor I think is going to be a droid, and then he said which droid, and I didn't really have an answer, so I just said SN-33, and we were like, wait, what? That makes no sense. And the reason I said that is because I didn't know any other droids. And I thought it was someone we had to know. So I was partially right, but I couldn't think of a specific droid that it would be. And so I wasn't really that surprised that it was a droid. But I'm actually happy with it. I like the idea that it was nobody. I like the idea. I don't want a cameo in here. We don't need it for Hondo or something. Like, I mean, it's upsetting we didn't get Hondo in the show, but um, we didn't need the cameo from anyone there that we knew. It could have been someone we didn't know who was just an imposing figure, but it's fine. To me, it was fine that it wasn't. It actually kind of adds to the story that it was a droid. It's like the whole planet is droids. You
Yeah.
have these security droids, the supervisor droid, and they know it too. That's the friend. The crazy thing is what we hear from Fern and Farah going up there.
Yeah.
She's like, this is a great honor to meet the supervisor at your age, meaning other older people have met the super. So it's not a secret who supervisor is. The citizens of this planet know
Yeah.
who the supervisor is, and they knowingly obey a droid.
Yeah. That's what.
So
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
And if I can add something really quick, I want to know why and how. Right? Someone had to build that. Someone had to create that and create that planet, and there had to be willing people. You had to convince people to be like, this is going to be running your planet, and they had to be on board with it
Start.
Yeah.
from the start, like the start of it, right? As generations go on, it's just the way it is, right? So like you don't, but like the very start of it, you literally had to convince people you're gonna go by what this droid says, and everything's gonna be okay. So that's the fascinating part for me, and that's something I'd maybe want to see into season two. But a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the situation with that, Pete, I think it's a great point you brought up, is sort of like, we see the control room was basically like built to be staffed by like dozens of people and it hasn't been touched in centuries. So you're maybe at one point when all the ats were doing the experiment, whatever we thought with the space Epcot theory, that like maybe, okay, we have a staff full of people, maybe Republic people were in here. And then at some point they just abandon the project and just leave the droid to keep these people self-functioning for whoever knows how long.
I
Any thoughts?
wonder how it's confusing that they even had those desks.
Yeah.
Did they? I see your point. Like they tried doing something prior to the supervisor being a droid. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's the point. But it leaves it a little open ended, and whether that's intentional or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't know how much familiar you guys are with Lost. There's a great season 2 plot line. You guys familiar with the whole idea of the Dharma Initiative and the stations on the island?
If it's not season 1 of Lost, I don't know it. And to be honest, even season 1, I probably don't know.
Yeah, so basically this whole thing is called the Dharma Initiative. It's like a whole bunch of researchers on the island in the 70s. They built all these stations here. At one point, the survivors of Oceanic 815 find one that's basically like a monitoring station that's sort of like a psychological experiment where like they're writing down logs of what's happening on the other station and sending it in a pneumatic tube. They find out at the end of the season the tube is going nowhere, basically. So it's kind of that situation where like, they're being led to do one thing and then it doesn't actually matter. So I kind of feel like that's slightly parallel to what's happening here.
Maybe I've never seen Lost, so sounds like it.
Yeah, well, look, the less if he was here, we'd definitely have fun with that theory. But we'll get back to the situation here where Ja is chatting with the supervisor. He's basically saying, "Oh, I need to talk to my ship. I need to get them down here." And the supervisor correctly says here, like, oh, you're a Jedi. Fern tries to shout as a trick, and Jod basically gets caught a lie because the supervisor knows about Order 66 somehow and says, wait, we were told the Jedi are traitors. Which one are you? And Fern says, he's a pirate out to steal everything here. So while that happens here, the supervisor tries to get the droids taken down. We get a very cool scene here, Nick, where like we get the parallel with the shot of Phantom Menace where Qui-Gon's using his laser to cut into the droid door where he kills the supervisor that way. So I thought this was a fun sort of aha moment for Jod the supervisor.
Very surprising too. I did not expect that to happen so soon. I did expect it to happen, but I thought that would be like later in the episode. I thought we'd learn more about the supervisor and the motives and whatnot and the planet's history. And no, John just went right in there.
Yeah. Are you surprised the supervisor knew about Order 66 considering how barricaded this planet seems to be from the rest of the galaxy?
Um, I don't know. I feel like it just opens the door that they were around during the regular Republic. Um, I have to say, bad on the supervisor for allowing him to go up there when he was like, "Yeah, I knew you weren't a Jedi or anything like this." Like it was almost like, why would you even allow him near you or
Yeah.
around like the central station for the whole planet? Like,
I
Yeah.
was surprised by the Order 66 thing because I thought like, or maybe just the supervisor knows and no one else on the planet knows. I'm not sure if that's what we're led to believe,
There's kind
but
of hard to believe.
okay, because it seems like the rest of the planet thinks we're way before that. Like, that no one ever heard of the Jedi being traitors kind of thing, and these are the common people, so they would believe what the supervisor tells them. So if the supervisor told them the Jedi are traitors, they would believe the Jedi are traitors. Wim's dad would not be okay with him playing with Jedi action figures or pretending to be a Jedi or anything. He would say, "Stop that! They're not good people, whatever."
Yeah.
So at least seems like the supervisor is not telling them, which is interesting, and also means that someone from the Republic, or as we know it, the Empire, is in contact with the supervisor.
Or was at one point.
Or was, correct, yeah. Was, because the Empire is gone at this point in the timeline. But interestingly, not like who? Was the Emperor calling this guy, the supervisor? I doubt it. I doubt him directly, but you never know.
Yeah, maybe just received the beacon that the Order 66 beacon that got sent out, and just picked it up on a transmission frequency and said, oh, okay, Jedi traitors, let's not let any of them back in our planet
That's a
again.
good point.
I mean, it could have been a planet that was closer to the systems that we know. They don't really tell us where the planet is.
Yeah.
So it could be something that was closer and, during Order 66, it was one of the planets that got a transmission to be like, "Hey, Jedi are bad." And then they went to this droid thing afterwards.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens there here. And anyway, when Jod destroys Supervisor, he basically knocks out all the security droids, sort of like how, like in Phantom Menace, another parallel to it, like when the battleship, the droid command ship gets destroyed, all the droids become useless. They all get shut down. The planet gets blacked out, and we have a situation where Jod and Farah try to figure out how to get the ship in. Jod says, "Destroy the barrier." Farah says, "Let's not do that. We want to protect the planet. So I'll give you ability to land the ship. Just let it come in." And Jod's spin here, Pete, is sort of okay, like I'm okay with this because like I just want us to get our credits and leave. And like we'll leave you guys in peace. We want our score to go home. Fern basically tries to tell her mom like he's lying, but Farrah wants to believe he's true, and he used the threat to get her to get the job done. So I think this is interesting the situation here where we see Jod trying to go his power of persuasion when it fails, has to go to the stick.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I really enjoyed the scene. I really enjoyed Jod in this episode, actually, just as a whole. But yeah, no, it's definitely on par for him as of late.
Yeah, it is. And Nick, we see the frigate comes in and they start invading the ship coming on the block here. And then good job by Wim to immediately get his dad work. As soon as he realized the droids are off and the power is off, it's like he tells his dad the truth and everything and wants to try and help Fern out while the pirates start coming and laying wreck to everybody around them.
That's right. Yeah. And pretty cool scene seeing them all invade. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. They didn't really hurt anybody, which was great. And I didn't want to see anyone get hurt, but they were menacing and they really just took over the neighborhood immediately.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see.
Security doors down. There was like really no resistance. These guys are clearly not trained to fight in any way.
Oh, of course not. No. And then when they're all trying to get to the to get their ship, that chase, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, this is so much fun. Like I
Yeah,
was watching the episode, I was having a blast.
yeah.
It was
Yes,
like the most fun I've had watching an episode in so long. I was just actually like, forget the fact that it was really good, like it was, but that's not what I mean. Like it was just a lot of fun to watch.
yeah. It was a lot of fun to watch here too. Plus, P, I think it's also a credit here to the kids who now have this life experience of trying to get themselves out of situations where the parents and the other people on this planet are like, "Oh my God, what do we do? The pirates are here." They're like, they spring into action a plan immediately, and like you see that KB and Neil basically roll up to Wim's house on hover bikes and say, "Hey, let's just go get our ship back, go into space, and get a message out to Kim. She can call the X-wings and then come and help us here." So these guys now more equipped to handle their situations than any of the adults on this planet.
I mean, yeah, they're the only ones that are equipped to handle a situation. It's just, it's just another day for them. They've been going through a lot when they were not on planet. So this was probably a piece of cake for them when it came to jumping into action. The plan obviously was a little bit more complicated, but it was a no-brainer for them. It's like we got to do something, so they just did it.
Yeah. So in other words, Nick, this was just Wednesday for these guys.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and we get this great plan here. We see that they Rim's dad too gets involved. He grabs a bike, goes with the kids, and we see the pirates looting, and he's basically getting chased by Vane from Mando is leading the skiff, trying to shoot these guys down for about like like the entire city block. Somehow can't get the job done. But at one point, Neil gets separated from the group. They reach the Onyx Cinder. The other three, they realize that the holding clamps are locked in with the power off. So their plan is basically Wim and his dad are going to head for the supervisor's tower, turn off the power, and get Katie the ability to fly the ship out to go get help. So that's
I
the
could not believe they actually left Neil behind. When he
plan.
fell, I was like, this is such a clear moment for Wim to tell him to not give up and to like get on the thing with him or whatever. And they actually, I mean, it ended up working, of course, because Neil had his own purpose in the episode and he had his own path. But that blew my mind. I was like, they really just left him? They did.
PA was more of a times the essence situation here, where it's like we can't afford to go back for Neil, and Neil's like, "It's okay, I can hide. Like they're not gonna come after me. They're gonna worry about you guys."
Yeah, no, you're right, but it was still shocking to see it.
I will say I think Neil and Wim's characters kind of switched there.
Yeah,
I would have just because of what Neil winds up doing later and what Wim winds up doing later, you would think it would have been flipped. The roles would have been reversed because Neil was the one to stand up to the bad guy and be brave, and then Wim was the one on the guns on the ship. So it's kind of weird how those roles reversed.
yeah. Fun reversal here, and we get a little bit of Jod's motivation here. We basically learn that like his goal is basically like, okay, like we're just gonna like we're taking over. Like you guys are like unpaid workforce. You're gonna keep the men's running for us, and we're gonna just like profit off of you guys. We'll let you live. Like that's the deal. So he basically wants to enslave the whole population and just run them in for himself.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a good plan to have once he invaded.
Yeah. And then Nick, this was fun also when Wim gets up to the tower and he walks in, so trying to buy time so Dak can sneak in and turn the power on. He basically plays his whole bluff like, I called the X-Wings. They're coming to stop you guys. And John's like, you did not. The power's off. It's like, I found the magical stone of fortune or something like that. And Fern backs the story up. This is very little kid like bluffing story wise. And it is funny that John plays along with me. He's like, okay, you guys could have come up with a better story, but this is funny.
Yeah, that was funny. I just want to know, like, I understand Wim's dad hiding in the elevator so he didn't see him, but like he was gonna see him as soon as he turned the power on.
Yeah.
So like, what's the difference in you know what I'm trying to say? Like, couldn't Jod have just turned the power back off
Oh, in theory.
unless he didn't know how?
I think it was more of like he turned the power up by shutting the supervisor by blowing up the supervisor. I don't think he knows the intricate nature of the switches
What
here.
other things up?
Yeah.
Just
And
start just start wailing your lightsaber around. I'm sure things will eventually go off, right?
Yeah, I think John at this point is a little over his head at this point because like he's that like one person. Now he's got actual adults in there trying to like go against him as opposed to little children.
Yeah, true, true.
And he's not getting much help from his pirate buddies. They've not been very successful in their missions here.
They took over the planet very easily, but they were unable to stop our plot armored main characters.
Yeah, they're able to stop three children and their dad, and one of the
Yeah,
dads.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So it works. They John cuts the tower crew for KB gets off, and we found out while this is going on, Peach, you're paired SM-33, so he can fly the ship for her. So KB showing off mad tech skills again.
Yeah, no, it was definitely great.
Yeah. I also love this is my favorite like shock of the moment episode. It was like as Pete shouted out earlier, Neil manning the orbital cannon to shoot at the pirates so KB could get away. That was a great surprise.
And then they had him aimed up and he had to run away.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. KB has cleared the barrier. She calls Kim, which was teased in episode 3, gives the Senator New Republic for help here. And the pirates do attack a ship. It crashes. We know KB's not actually gonna die. The characters think she's dead because the ship crashed here. There's a big scramble to barrier shutdown here. Jod ends up holding Wim's dad at lightsaber point. Blah blah blah. We finally get the backstory. Very a 2-line backstory basically on Jod Pete. Basically fits the theory. He's a Padawan in Order 66. He learned the ability before his master was killed, and they said, you know what? I'm going back to what I know. I'm gonna go fight to survive. So pretty much we nailed it.
I did not take it that way.
You did not.
I thought it was a non-confirmed Jedi. In other words, let's just say Qui-Gon Jinn. I know it obviously wasn't Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon found him, did not bring him to the council, started training him on his own. So yeah, technically he's not a Padawan because he was not. This is the way I took it. He was not part of the Jedi Order, but he was learning the ways of the Force from somebody.
I think this is an Anakin situation, basically, where it's like an older kid that the master found. Like, I'm going to teach this kid what to do.
Yeah, and I don't think he went to the council and whoever the master
I
was
don't I don't
and
think the
talked to
council's
Yoda.
around at this point.
What do you mean?
So, I mean,
Or Order 66 he's talking about.
right, but if Jod is how old he is, I'm assuming that it was before like him being a kid was after Order 66. This is post
Oh
this is
no, no.
post
He said he watched his master die in Order 66.
He said,
oh, I missed that.
my master was hunted down, and then I was on my own again.
Right, but hunted down, how many Jedi survived Order 66 to begin with, and then there were still Inquisitors later on hunting them down later on. That's kind of where
It's
I
only
was.
it's 28 years before Revenge of the Sith.
And he
I
did.
think we're led to believe that his character's about what, 50, 45 maybe.
I'd say 45 that they're trying to sell you.
So
And
yeah,
I,
I could see him being like a 17-year-old kid during it.
he said, I learned a little before my master was hunted down and killed in front of me.
So the way I took it was just it's pretty much the same thing. I just don't think that the master, and again, I'm just using Qui-Gon as an example, that Qui-Gon Jinn went to the council and said, I'm going to train this person. He went through the trials. I think it was more of a I befriended a Jedi, and that Jedi just taught me things.
Yeah.
That's how I took it.
Not officials, but like Jod still called this person his master.
Yeah, that's how I took it. It could easily be wrong. I mean, they just didn't confirm that he actually went through the Padawan ways and had the braid and all that. We don't know.
It's like he learned some of the parlor tricks basically, and then like that's really it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, gives up here. He does not want Jod to hurt anyone, and Jod claims he doesn't want to cause any damage here. He doesn't want to hurt people. He just wants to take control of the mint, and it sort of fits like what we've seen from Jod for the most part, where like he's had opportunities to get rid of these kids before he hasn't. So like I feel like he has a compass of some sort where I think he's in the Batman no killing mode, Pete, but like he is not opposed to doing like questionable things to get what he wants. He just has a no killing code.
Yeah, I mean, I think if someone directly gets in his way,
Yeah.
specifically him, he'll do what he needs to do. I mean, we saw that with Brutus. But he doesn't want any of his crew when he's not involved doing anything. And also, too, he wanted them to be able to work for him. So if you kill off the population, you're not going to have anyone to work to make these credits. So I think it was more so the population thing, but also too like he's willing to do what he needs to do for him, but he doesn't want to destroy the planet on top of it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with John's relationship with how the kid it's evolved. Like where I think the last episode he gives this whole thing about like how like he like is jealous of the kids because like they're spoiled from this planet, like where they never have to want for anything and they can just like use these really expensive credits to buy potato chips and like he had to like scrap and claw for every little dollar he could grab over the course of his life. So I think that is interesting. Sort of see that play out here.
It is, and like what Pete was saying, I agree. He doesn't want to hurt. I always believed that he never wanted to hurt the children. I always believed that he did want to get them to safety. But at the same time, he wasn't in it to get them to safety. He was in it for himself. So I don't know if is he the main villain of the show?
Kind of, sort
Kind
of.
of. But at the same time, I think of him more as a Wario than I do a Bowser. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like he's like Han Solo if Han Solo didn't go back for Luke in New Hope.
Yeah, true.
Remember, Han's only going to the Death Stars. He's getting paid. He's not going there for out of the goodness of his heart.
Right. And he's gonna help a lot. He's gonna help out, but it's not for them. It's for
Yeah,
himself.
yeah. It's because Han needs money to pay Jabba the Hutt back, not to go help the princess because he feels obligated to the rebellion.
Yeah.
And so to wrap up the storyline here, we get another struggle emerge here. Win and Fern end up with a lightsaber. And it ends up, we have this great moment where Farah and Wim's dad, Wendell, destroy the barrier. New Republic arrives to save the day here. And Pete, if the people on the Varro saw how fast the New Republic came to help At Attin when they were begging for help from the pirates, they didn't show up here. Like, they'd be so pissed.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe the New Republic knew about At Attin and how important that planet was. Just strategic to commerce and stuff. But yeah, you're right. They'd be real pissed.
Yeah, Nick, imagine if you got this news bolt on the Varro. It's like, new pirates come and save the day. Like, New Republic comes to save the day for the pirates for At Attin. They're like, where was our help?
You are right. I was so mad watching this because they actually showed the inside of these X-Wings,
Yeah.
and we still didn't show Carson Teva. They went out of their way to show who was manning them, and it was not Carson Teva.
Yeah, but like shows you what the New Republic's priorities are. They went where the money was.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. I think that's very true here. Then we see here that the pirate ship ends up crashing here. They go check on KB. She survives. SM-33 comes out of the ship. A whole boatload of credits pods out of the ship here. We see Wim start to look at the sky and see the whole situation play out. You can see Wim's dad wants him to leave, and Wim's like, "This is such a cool adventure. This is an awesome story." And that's where we ended. We kind of leave Jod up in the air. We assume he just gets arrested, but we're not officially told that. But I think a very like a great way to end the storyline, Pete. Okay, like they're safe. They were here to save the day. Jod probably got held away with the pirates who survived the ship blowing up, and that's it.
Yeah, what stood out to me the most was the connection that the kids still had to Jod. You can kind of see that they were maybe concerned for him
Yeah,
after they kind of escaped him because Wim kind of calls out to him like at the end. Um, so it and he kind of gives like that little like I know I did bad, but like that little smirk like I still care about you guys kind of a thing. So I found that part the most interesting. I'm glad KB survived and all that kind of stuff, but that was the thing that stuck out.
yeah. Nick, any thoughts on how they ended this?
No different than what Pete said, but I gotta say, now obviously KB was not going to die.
Nope.
But if she did, the way she slid down that ramp, if imagine that was how they showed her body and she was dead, that would have been insane.
That would have been like literally like nuts.
The way that her body slid down there, I was like, oh my God, imagine she was actually dead. That'd be the most ridiculous thing they've ever done in any show. Like having a kid die and sliding down a slot, like the entrance ramp of a ship. But obviously that she's not dying.
Yeah. She's not dying, and they get away. They get away pretty much. So that's Skeleton Crew in a nutshell. So we'll talk more big picture next week, but I think we should start wrapping things up. Unless you guys have anything else you want to add on this episode.
Nothing.
Nope.
All right. So to close it out here, we got to start going through the things that we can keep track of here, starting with, as expected after the first couple of weeks of this show, we had zero action on the character draft here. And it turns out that the guy who pretended to be Wim's dad on Reddit, the actor's dad on Reddit, may have violated an NDA here.
Nah, he was wrong. He was wrong. There were
Yeah.
connections. They showed the character from The Force Awakens manning an X-wing. I forgot his name. I don't know.
Yeah.
They had a hut. We had a hut on the spa planet there.
Very minimal,
In
though.
fact, there were some connections to the broader Star Wars universe, so that was not true.
All right. So now the stakes are high for Andor season two, where we're going to add to our teams for the season one draft. So ask a couple people each. So that'll be fun.
But I can't believe they showed X-wings on three separate occasions,
Yeah.
and Carson Teva wasn't around.
Nick, we had Hondo's ship at the Port Morgo and no Hondo.
Yeah, I had two or three teases. You had that one massive tease on your team as well. Unfortunately, though, teasers are like loading the bases and not scoring a run. So no runs.
Yeah. Yeah. As I believe
My
this,
my team didn't even show up to the game, so it's fine.
yeah. I believe the saying is, Pete, that close only matters in horseshoes.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit longer than that, but we won't say
Yeah.
the full saying on the podcast.
Yeah, we'll keep it nice and family friendly there.
Yeah.
All right. So there's at least one tracker hit, Nick, on the entire finale. Just one. Did you have to
Which
catch
was,
you have to catch the
I
classic
mean,
line?
no, I didn't.
There is an allusion to Ahsoka's famous line of "I am no Jedi" when Wim shouts out to John and gets all the shit. You are no Jedi.
All right.
Good catch. I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, that was the biggest one. There also was a point where like the supervisor droid basically says to Fern, like, "We can follow your career with great interest," or echoing Palpatine's line from the end of Phantom Menace, but like that was too obscure to be and a classic line.
This is a deep cut.
Yeah, yeah, but "You are no Jedi" one though people picked up. It was all a lot of different places.
I don't like that Fern and Farrah's name are so similar, and I get confused sometimes on which one's which.
I mean, like Wim's dad's name Wendell.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
Yeah, they like their alliteration. I'm surprised Neil's dad's name isn't Nick.
Maybe it is.
Yeah. And it's probably spelled like Nikh
Hmm.
or Nick like the New York Knicks.
Oh yeah, maybe that.
All right, let's go ahead to the MVP board. These are the best and worst characters through 7 episodes of Skeleton Crew, rated by us. Jod, aka Captain Silvo, aka Crimson Jack, aka Dash Zenton, aka Jobwick Zant, aka Professor Umiam Gorlox, aka the Republic Emissary on top of the board at +8. Neil Longbottom at +5. Fern +4. KB +3. The writers got a point from Pete and Amir. Our negative ones, the security droids, Hana and Wim. -2, Wim's dad and the spy guards from Lupa. SM33 at a -3, along with Hana's dad. And Bruce at -7. And he's probably staying there as the LVP of the season. But we'll start at the MVPs here. I'll kick us off here. I think ideally I'd like to get recognition for a couple people here. So I hope I reserve the right to change my opinion here if we end up all the same person. But I'll give KB the MVP here for doing the heavy lifting here of at repairing SM33, flying the ship herself, getting the message out for help, and all coming up with the plan basically in general here. So KB gets the point from me. What about you, Pete?
Um, I have two MVPs. One's the one I want you to put on the board. The other one I just want to talk about real quick. I think Jod's the MVP of this episode. I still think he plays a phenomenal character, and I think that the development throughout, his best performance was last episode and this episode. So I have to give him the MVP for the board. For not the board, I have to give it to Wim's dad for trusting Wim, going complete, let's call it badass, right? There was a line where he's like, "I'm a level 7 technician. Of course I can get the power." It was like one of those things that made me chuckle, and I was just like, that dude's awesome. So I give him the metaphorical MVP for his character development as well.
Honorable mention to Wendell.
Yeah.
Nick,
I'm giving it to Wim's dad
give it to
for the
Wendell.
reason dad. Yeah, he trusted his son so quickly, which is a huge growth moment for him. And not to mention, He clocked Jod in the face.
Yeah,
Have we, when was the last time we saw a punch in Star Wars? I can only think of Han Solo doing it.
that's a very Han Solo move.
Right when whenever who did he clock? I don't remember.
I don't remember who it was. It was one of those things. There was like a sleight of hand thing going on. Also, if I remember correctly.
Lando?
I'd be Lando
He clocked Lando
Empire.
in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
That might be the second punch in live action Star Wars.
yeah.
That doesn't count as like a little jab when they're doing a lightsaber battle. That doesn't really count. But like he just clocked him, clocked him.
He has wound up his fist and
Yeah, that was awesome.
all right. So MVP point for Wendell here. LVPs. Pete, you can go first.
Um, it's got to be the security droids for, I know they were protected and they were just there for protocol, but that was terrible. Terrible performance. I don't see how they could be protecting that planet. God forbid anything happens. So they get the LVP.
Nick.
Brutus. No. For me, it's the supervisor. He just allowed Jod right up in his face when he knew what he was going to do. What are you doing?
Yeah. Those are good picks. I have to put Vane on the board here because I mean, Vane has a skiff with 19 pirates and 17 guns. He lets three children and a middle-aged man on his hover bikes ruin the entire situation here. So he gets an LVP from me because Vane had so many opportunities to shoot them down. He couldn't do it.
Very fair.
Yeah,
Can I suggest what you should write on the board for the supervisor?
sure.
Star Wars Carousel of Progress. As that thing was spinning, for some reason, I just kept hearing it's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. It's, it's Disney too, so it works.
All right, so he's going on the board with Star Wars Carousel of Progress here. Now going
When are
great,
they going to update that?
probably
Never.
The Carousel of Progress. The progress, like the future, is like 15 years ago.
the future is like 1992.
Yeah, they have a VR headset, and they're like, "Oh wow!" Like,
I
Well,
don't
they,
think
they
it's
got to
going
do.
to change. I think it's nostalgic.
I think it's low on the priority of money to spend.
Well, it's a big area. You think they just get rid of it at some point if people aren't going on it?
I think people go on. I think I
Oh,
think there's more about maintaining it more than
that's
It's a
the
really it's a very good place for dads to take a nap.
yep. Get the air conditioning, take a 20-minute nap.
Yep.
You're back on the road.
Yeah, you know what's underrated
Yeah.
for that? Well, the People Mover's underrated for that too.
So which one is that? The People Mover you said?
People Mover, yeah.
Yeah. They're also good for that.
Yeah, because you get to sit down for 20 minutes. You're mostly go through shade
You're
air.
going in and out of air conditioning in that one as opposed to Carousel of Progress. You're in the AC the whole time.
Yeah, but you get to go behind the scenes and stuff. You can take a nap if you want.
You can, but you're going in and out of the air conditioning. Sometimes you're outside; it's a little hot.
Yeah. All right, so that's a spot here. Now let's get to the grades. That's on a scale of 1 to 10. One is worth 1978 Holiday Special. 10 is up to the Prince Maker of Andor for the pinnacle of live action Star Wars content. Nick, you can start us out with the grades.
Second straight week, I'm giving it a 9.5.
All right.
Awesome episode, awesome finale. Good job.
I'm giving it a 9. Great ending. Stuck the landing. I have a couple of minor quibbles, but it's fine not getting a 10, but 9 for me. Pete.
9.5. Pretty much what you guys said. I think the only thing that would make this a 10 is if the supervisor is an actual person of interest. So 9.5.
All right, so that's what we got for us this week. And we'll be back next week to do our Skeleton Crew Season 1 review podcast. It's coming out next week. And I think the big question in everybody's mind here, going to be, Pete, is like, is this it? Or are we getting more?
That's a big question that we're gonna talk about next week.
Yeah.
Probably the big topic. We should go into positives and negatives on both.
Yeah. I think it's a great debate. I think you can easily justify both answers on this question. Because remember last week's predictions, I'll just sort of tease it here. My big prediction was that At Attin will be open to the galaxy so we can come back and visit at some point. That's basically exactly what happened.
Well, yeah, it's exactly what happened.
It's like I knew there was this. I felt like way they said it was one and done. Like they left it so that like we can go visit At Attin if we want. Maybe we want the Mandalorian to stop by. We can, but like we don't have to continue the story if we don't want to.
That's all right.
100%.
All right, so that's all we got for us this week. I want to thank you guys for coming on as always. Pete, people want to follow you on social media. I can do that.
At Consy29 on Twitter, CONSY29, AP Tower 308, created the background on Reddit behind me. So make sure you check them out.
Nick, one more time. People want to follow us on social media. How can I do that?
Pretty much everywhere at Sky Guys Podcast. And you can also email us at skyguyspod@gmail.com.
Yeah, you guys follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS 331. This week over on the Just on the Suffering podcast, we got you ready for the divisional round of the playoffs. We had some fun picks there. Plus, Darryl Slater, the Star Ledger, stopped by, talk about Knicks Giants and the strange decision making they've had this season in terms of the John Mara keeping Shane and Dayball situation.
Very interesting to see what we do. We'll see.
We will see. We'll be back next week. Keep an eye on. I would say look for this pod on Tuesday, the season review podcast. Try and get that one out a little early to you. But until then, may the force be with you.